Right, it's only 3:30 right now. And the reason I'm recording this video now is because I had a gap in my calendar. So I figure let's make a video. This video is going to be more about taking risk. It's not sales. It's going to be about taking risks. I'll tell you why. Because the most important thing that you can do in your life is work. And when I say work, I don't mean the work that you think you should do. A lot of people associate work with desk job, 9 to 5, homework, tests. They think of work as those particular actions. Now, work itself is actually the mission that you're on, the journey that you're walking down. That is the work through the works, through the good work that you do, through the actions that you take to try to change your life and other people's life for the better. Now, everybody has their own way of contributing differently to society, but until you make the decision that you are going to serve something greater than yourself, honestly and earnestly, and having a conversation with yourself and allowing grace to work through you and having the faith that if you have a strong character, then that could pull you through even the worst of times. Because the most important thing that you need to develop in life is not going to be wealth. It's not going to be your relationships. It's not going to be any of that. It's going to be your character. And your character is going to produce the fruits. Uh, that analogy, I think, is breaking down. Your character is going to be the source from which everything else will emerge, which means that if you're not really that good of a person, you're not really honest, you don't really work that hard, you're rude, you're irritable, think about your life. You're not going to have an amazing life. You may have money, right? There are different ways to make money. You don't have to be a good person to make money. That's true. But you have to ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of state do you want to live in? And what kind of life do you envision for yourself? And so if you focus on your character is actually what is going to not manifest all of these different other external situations, but your character is going to allow you to make the decisions necessary to put yourself in positions to create the life that you want, which means that if you want to make good decisions, you really have to act based on faith, which means that you don't know if you tell the truth or if you act in a manner that is in line with your beliefs. And if you take a risk, you take a chance because you believe this to be true and to be right and to be good. You don't know if that action is going to contain a positive outcome. You don't know that externally. The outcome is actually who you become in the process. You have to be able to reframe your mind and thinking the process itself is the outcome. So whatever occurs through the doing is the outcome as opposed to some reward that you reach at the end. Because when you get to the one peak, you're going to see the next peak. And it's not a bad thing to set up milestones for yourself, like climb the mountain. Because once you climb the mountain, you're going to be at the top. You're going to get your opportunity to enjoy it, but you're not going to feel empty. A lot of people who say success is empty, they only think that way because that's all they were focused on. They were only focused on that. And once they achieved that, they realized that internally they were barren of the character traits and the feelings that they wanted to experience during the journey. So they were waiting for something to happen before they were able to actually build their character and have certain feelings, experience certain feelings internally. So you have to be very conscious in thinking, how can I do this for myself every day in order to become the person that can produce the life that I want to produce? So it all starts in the temple. It all starts from with you, because again, I don't know what you believe, but I'll be very direct with you. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I do not believe that we're here by accident. I do not believe that this is all by chance. And I'll be the first person to admit that there's an old expression, which is whether you believe that you can or you believe that you can't, you're right. So whether you believe the situation is going to help you or whether you think it means nothing or whether you think it's going to hurt you, you're right. Because the way you orient your mind around any situation is how you will perceive it. Tony Robbins has a very famous experiment that he does. I don't know if he came up with it, where he says, okay, everybody look around. Everybody, is in a stadium, is in a hall or of some kind. And he says, okay, everybody look around for anything that's red, 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 look for red, look for anything that is red, look for red, red, close your eyes. And now tell me everything that you saw that was blue. People are like, oh, I don't think I see anything that was blue. Blue was there, but because you were focused on red, you saw red. And then he said, tell me if you saw anything that was burgundy or light brown and called it red, just to feel that you were successful. So even everything that's kind of related to what you're seeing or what you're oriented towards, you will recognize as similar to your goal. And you will kind of eliminate everything else from your perceptual systems. So Jordan Peterson also has a saying is that everybody believes in God, they just serve a different God, or they don't know what God they serve. So even people who say that they are an atheist orient themselves towards having a belief and no belief, and that in itself is a belief. So basically they're serving rationality or they're serving science, and that is their God. I think that's the point he's trying to make. I don't want to speak for Jordan Peterson. I don't want to speak for you. I don't know what you believe. I'm not really that concerned, to be honest, about what you believe specifically. But it's not going to hurt you if you think that by having faith in your actions and acting towards goodness and trying to be a good person, that is going to produce the life that you're looking for. But you have to mobilize your resources. You have to work at it. This is not easy. And so, you see me thinking right now, and I'm thinking of my life. So what I did is on a daily basis, and I would fall off again. I would fall off quite frequently. I didn't do everything perfectly. But one thing that remained consistent was my habit of working out, of exercising on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, at least 4 times a week. I'm 35 now, so from the time I was maybe 15 years old, I was playing soccer since I was 4 years old, and I played soccer from maybe 4 to 15, 16, and then from 15 I started working out at the gym, and then I started martial arts in my late teens, and then I was basically working out for that entire period. So for the last 20 years, if you will, being consistent and diligent with regular activity, regular vigorous physical activity. So you need to do things that are good for yourself, that are good for your body, that are good for your mind, that are healthy, so that you can bring, and you may not be thinking about this way as far as bringing your best self to the world, but you really need to take care of yourself. And then once you got that down, you focus on the other things. So if you have your diet down, like if you're a healthy eater in general, then continue doing what you're doing and start to add something else. And if you're doing anything that you perceive as being negative or toxic or whatever, then stop doing that. Whether it's being around negative people, or you're consuming negative content on social media, or you're attracted to certain activities on the internet, if you catch my drift, that are not really serving you, you start removing these things and you start to envision yourself, okay, so this is the life I want. What kind of person do I want to be in the future? Who is this person? Who is my ideal self? And what can I do now to step into that person? It could be something small, but you do things every day. And sometimes the things that you do can be kind of consistent. And maybe you're not making people say, you got to be 1% better every day. Maybe you can't be 1% better every day, but you can try your best. Like your best will be different every day. I've heard this many times. Maybe you got sick. Maybe something happened and you couldn't have your last meal of the day. You slept terribly, and now your entire day has kind of shifted. So your best will look different every day. You're not going to be very consistent. So you have to give yourself some grace. You have to give yourself some compassion and realize that you're not a perfect being. You're not a perfect being. You're going to have ups and downs. And I spoke about this in a previous video. Embrace the fact that you are going to have ups and downs, but just keep your mind oriented to the true north. Keep your mind oriented there. Because what I did as far as like building my character is that I would have ups and downs, and I've never been perfect. I've never even had stretches where I feel like I've done everything right. That doesn't happen that way. At least for me, it didn't happen that way. One thing that really changed me, and I will say this as far as my personal experience, is that when I finally started to make decisions for myself, So I stopped listening to my family, to society, to friends, to what everybody else was saying. When I started just listening to myself and making my own decisions, I started realizing that certain things were appearing in my life that were aligned with something that I would want to do. And I took a risk. That's another thing that you have to do. And I know some of you may not be in a position to do that, but if you're in a position, and I'm not speaking to salespeople right now, I'm speaking to everybody, is that if you're in a position right now where you feel like you're stuck, you're in a rut, you're trapped, you don't know what to do, you have to really think about what is it that I want to do on a vague level, on a general level. And what decision can I make today that will actually move me in that direction? And sometimes, very often, that decision has to be bold, right? It has to be a decision that is going to push you out of your comfort zone. It's not just, well, let me send. Now, sometimes you have to start slow, right? You have to build up. You have to go through that process of progressive exposure so you can step into that fear slowly and not dive in head first. Other people need to dive in head first, and maybe there's a combination of both going on here. But the point is that making decisions that are in line with who you want to become and making sure that as you make the decisions, you're embodying the same character of this person, because your experiences are going to reflect who you are. Your experiences are going to reflect who you are, because who you are is also how you're going to see the world. So I hope that was helpful. I know that was a little bit esoteric and a bit philosophical, but maybe the main takeaway, I think, here, and maybe we can kind of do these more often, as far as what is the takeaway, what is the practical action step that I could take. I think now that I'm saying it out loud is something that is important to incorporate moving forward. The practical action step is thinking about, who are you currently? Who do you want to become? Which means, what are the character traits that you want to embody? You see yourself in the future and you start to think, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What do I want to create? So you think about where you are, what character is required, what your future looks like, and then you make a decision. You do something new. When I say decision, I don't mean I made a decision to do X, Y, Z, and maybe you've done it before. It's like you do something that will, in a sense, be something completely new. It's novel. It's something that you've never done before. And you do it, it's in line with that direction. And listen, it may not be the right thing at the time. You may make a change later, but you are experiencing the domain of the unknown, right? You're making the unseen seen. And so that is going to help you illuminate your own pathway, and you're going to learn in the process, and you're going to start to get new experiences. If you listen to a lot of, or if you know of a lot of people who have interesting stories, or they've been successful, or they've had very, very very colorful lives, is that they have had a multitude of experiences. They have had a multitude of experiences. So go out and have yourself an experience. But again, that experience is not this kind of impulsive, pleasure-seeking experience. It's really an experience that's going to reflect these other things that I mentioned, which is character building and who you want to become, what you want to create, and then take a risk and do something that's important to you. So sometimes you have to take your time and you have to really consider what that is, but don't take too long, right? Because if you take too long, remember the law of diminishing intent, inertia. The more you don't do, the more likely you are to not do. So just go and do, and I hope that was helpful. So I don't know if I'm going to record another one tonight, but a little bit of a unique situation, at least insofar as me recording a video at 3:45 p.m. in the afternoon. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.